Well, Drew, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today and get in front of the platform that I have the privilege of helping out with. I really do appreciate it. I'd love to start off just by introducing you, telling people who you are and why you decided to run for school board this year.
So, Oscar, thank you for having me. So, yes, my name is Asdrubal Dru Gutierrez, and I'm running for Humble ISD position two. I am married to a beautiful wife. She's a Marine and a nurse. She graduated from Lost Star College, Kingwood. I have four kids. My oldest graduated from Atascocita High School in 21. Then I have a fourth grader, second grader, and a special ed student that is going into pre-K next year here in the district. The reason why I'm running is the old three-prong approach. I had family members, friends that asked me to consider running. I had community leaders come to me, and then I had business leaders also come to me, as well as religious leaders that came to me and asked me to consider to run. So here we are. Campaign's been about 4 months strong. My body of work in Humble ISD dates back about 10 years. The most recent body of work was last year when I was a member of the Citizens Bond Advisory Committee. And then I had the privilege to be nominated to spearhead the Political Action Committee, which helped pass the 2022 bond referendum.
Let's dive into a few topics, and I want to talk about your campaign as well. But let's start off with in this election season, we've heard from different candidates and a segment of our community that are concerned about books and materials that they say are in Humble ISD libraries that they feel are inappropriate and at times even harmful to students. So, what are your thoughts on one, how the district is approaching this already, and two, are there any changes that need to be made?
So that's a great question, Oscar. So I've been attending board meetings for about 18 months now. I'm fully aware when the battle somewhat begun. I did have the unprivileged to sit there and have to listen to these excerpts. I agree. I mean, pornography has no value, no place in our K-12 school district system. And then the rest of the books, there's a policy in place. I do believe it's working. Like anything else, like any system, there's always room for improvement. So it's kind of some of the things that we learn along the way. If books should be rated on the educational value, and if some books kind of test that limit, I think the parents should be given that opportunity of choice. And I think that's what the district has done, and I support it.
School safety, right? It's on the mind of a lot of parents right now, both internal issues like bullying and fighting, and then you've got, of course, external threats that you hear about in the news, unfortunately. So you've been very involved in the district. Like you said, you've attended a lot of meetings. How do you feel Humble ISD is doing right now when it comes to keeping our students and teachers safe? And if there are any improvements to be made, what would you like to see in that area?
So again, it's been a work in progress. The 2018 bond addressed a lot of the external threats. Where there was the vestibules, specific, bulletproof glass, windows, so on and so forth. The 2012 also addressed some of the external safety issues, primarily on the IT system. It's got to evolve over time. I do believe the district has done a phenomenal job at staying in the forefront. I think you've heard several candidates mention that we're in the top 10% of safest school districts in the state of Texas. Um, and again, resources are limited. And just like anything else, just like any system, there's always room for improvements. School safety, just like all of our safety, whether you're at home or in your business, it's a multifaceted approach. Yes, guns have a place. Yes, cameras have a place. Bulletproof shields have a place. Pepper spray, bear spray, I know I made that suggestion a while back, has a place. So it's we got to continue to evolve and assess, engage our teachers, see what they're comfortable using. I am not one candidate that is for putting guns in teachers' hands. I believe that uh, leave law enforcement to law enforcement officers. I do believe that Chief Cook has a phenomenal partnership with other law enforcement agencies. They train together, they communicate, they are on the same wavelength. And when, let's be honest, when there's an emergency, all jurisdictional lines vanish, and let's respond. Let's keep our children and our teachers safe. On the side of bullying, you know, that's something that I can relate to. Having three kids in my own home, staying consistent is problematic, is a challenge, and I think that's something that we can work on as a board. We manage one employee, that's a superintendent. And if we communicate our wishes directly to her, she could then take that same culture, that same communication, and take it all the way down to the principal level. And that's key because if there's any disruption in that hierarchy, that's when your consistency in applying certain policies is challenged or inconsistent. So for me, that's a culture thing. And I want to make sure that our superintendent has a clear vision of what the board wants to see and implement that culture throughout the whole district.
Let's talk a little bit about your campaign for a moment. Your campaign is kind of a three-pronged approach. You've got your conviction to students, and your commitment to parents, and you're consistent to teachers. So let's kind of walk through these for us. Conviction to students. You talk about the fact that you're going to advocate putting students first. So specifically, what does that mean? What are we advocating for in that area?
So being on the school board, I see it as three main objectives, right? Advocacy, appropriations, and accountability. The conviction to students, for me, that falls more into the appropriations, where the school board has a budget, they have goals, whether it's internal goals or external goals coming from the state or even a department, is being able to allocate those funds appropriately and allow and fund those programs, those courses, those experiences that allow each and every student in Humble ISD to explore their hopes, dreams, and aspirations. And that's really all we can ask for as parents, right? An opportunity, an experience. I've said it on a campaign trail, education is more diverse than a test. I was a horrible test taker, but I do believe that I turned out okay. And I'll leave it there. Place students first. Students don't care about political parties and the infighting, so on and so forth. So let's just keep the focus on the students and let's take care of them. And that's my promise to the voter.
You mentioned tests in there, and so I'd love to just expound on that thought a little bit about the students being more than a test score. So we do have, and we have heard in this election, a few candidates talking about their concerns around what they're describing, and I think I'm quoting them here, a drastic decline in test scores. So one, do you agree with their data in the first place, or the way that they're interpreting the data? And then two, if they are more than a test score, what are your thoughts kind of on this area around test scores being a benchmark for Humble ISD?
I think the truth lies somewhere in the middle. I was there when the presentation was given to the board as far as how the scores are. This is the TEA scores are given to every campus, and this is clear as mud. And I've been around long enough to understand that more than likely the politicians didn't really write or read that bill. It was probably a lobbyist that had a special interest in whatever. So I think the state does need to make it clear on as far as how those tests, those grades, those rates are determined. And yes, absolutely, the test should be used as a benchmark because we all need to know where we stand, individually, even as students. But let's just use that test score as a fraction of the overall grade that the child gets. And I do believe that the district is doing a great job with portrait of a graduate. I know there's been some discussion about restarting that committee again and revisiting and re-engaging the community as far as what that looks like. I'm certainly for it. My daughter struggles in reading. I do not want her. I wouldn't want her to be her sole determinant on her future. My special needs baby, he'll never be able to take a test score. How do we work on that? My middle child, he's a little different. He's got his good genes from his mama, and he's a little bit of a brainiac, so he'll probably do just fine. But again, education is more diverse than test score.
All right, so let's jump to the second part of your campaign, the commitment to parents. And your website, for example, specifically says that every parent, every taxpayer deserves a return on their investment. So when you're talking about commitment to parents, what do you mean by that?
So, we're all familiar with taxes, especially right now as we're getting a new appraisals. Your number one tax bill is your school district, and it's an investment. And we have one shot to educate your child, right? Your student. So protecting those property values to me is key. If your school district sucks, your property appraisals suck. Let's just be honest. Let's keep it real. So protecting that. Obviously we talked about the books. That's what I meant about the indoctrination of our children and keeping the radical agenda out of our schools. Let's just stick to good old conservative values. That's certainly what I stand for. School safety. I mean, number one priority is that you drop off your children in the morning and you get them back the same way, shape, and form that you drop, when you drop them off. But most importantly, increasing community engagement. That's got a multifaceted approach as well. Whether that's the newsletters every now and then, improve our social media presence. Let's be honest. Doing things in a different language. A large population, we're very diverse, and a large population is Hispanic. What can we do as far as translating some of the information into Spanish and engaging that other population that we're not really trying to engage at this point? Again, 85% of the budget is people, 15% of the budget. How do we make it work with those resources? But we can start somewhere. But most importantly, in that commitment to parents is holding the superintendent accountable and setting high expectations for her, and her cabinet is going to be key.
On the note of parental engagement, this is probably as good a spot as any to ask the question about one thing that's come up a lot over the last few months is how long community members get to speak during public comment time at the board meetings. It's currently 1 minute. You and I have been around long enough where we know it used to be 3 minutes. What are your thoughts on that? Just generally speaking, should parents have more time to talk there, or is that maybe not the right forum as some of the other candidates are saying?
No, I think that is the best time to engage the board. I've served on several government boards before, and like you stated in several of your posts, we can. Those engagements have to be limited by law. However, increasing. I would be for increasing the time and finding a happy medium for everyone. Again, I've served on several boards. I've seen that 1 to 3 minute, up to 5 minute speaking time vary. But then I've also seen it that it varies. That so let's say you come to the board and you're talking about test scores, and you're given 3 minutes, but you want to come back the next meeting and you want to talk about the same topic, then you could be limited to 1 minute. I think that could be a happy medium for everyone. I've been going to these board meetings for 18 months. I've seen and I've heard those problematic books be read in the boardroom with children present. And I think that defeats the purpose of the fight. There's even if there's one child in there, that's one child too many to be reading that stuff. And 3 minutes was way too much.
Your last part of your platform is around being consistent to teachers. And when I asked the community what I needed to be asking these candidates, that came up a lot, specifically employee retention. So how do you feel the district's doing right now when it comes to valuing and retaining talent in the educator space? And if there's improvements to be made, what would that look like if it was up to you?
Again, there's always room for improvement, right? Engaging the teachers, certainly a piece of it. We have 98% retention rate of teachers. Let me say that one more time. 98% retention rate. Now, losing one teacher is probably one teacher too many in this day and time. However, there could be a variety of reasons why they're leaving. I do believe that the supporting the current academic calendar is a great retention tool for our teachers. We provide them for young teachers that are just young mothers. We provide them childcare at one of our facilities. I think that's a great retention tool. But more importantly, the last 2 points are giving them the freedom to develop their lesson plan is key. I've been around several school districts where it's a top-down approach and teachers are given a curriculum to teach. That's not really popular uh, in some with some teachers. Certainly, it's popular for a new teacher, that's coming into the profession and doesn't really know her way around. But the veteran teacher, I do believe, should have the freedom to develop her lesson plan. And more importantly, let's keep the board out of their classrooms. And I'll leave it at that.
I asked several questions, and I want to give you a chance to kind of make your closing pitch, if you will. But before we do that, are there any topics that I didn't bring up that you want to make sure you address before we wrap up?
No, not really. I think we've had several forums and several questions that have been asked. But on that point, I guess let me take this point of personal privilege here because I know it came up at the last Hardo meeting. And yes, I did raise a transgender child. That is my oldest. My oldest child is transgender. She's an adult now. However, when she was in the school district, I fully supported the current policy, which was to allow boys to go to the boys' restroom and girls to go to the girls' restroom. And she was given the choice, the opportunity to use the nurse's bathroom, and I fully support that. That was a very similar approach that what we took here at home. She is my stepdaughter. I have to support her. I have to love on her. I didn't quite agree with everything that she wanted to do, and that's okay. It did bring some friction between our relationship, and that's okay. But she had three younger siblings that we had to worry about and we had to raise and educate on what she was going through. Our goal, my wife and I's goal, was to get her to graduate. And once she became an adult, that was a conversation of the change that she could have between her pocketbook and God and move on down the road. She's an adult. She makes her own decisions. I got several phone calls about that. And I just want to make sure I make it clear of what that meant, where I stood on that. And I appreciate the time.
I appreciate your transparency there. Now, let's talk about the fact that you're running for position 2. You've got the incumbent. You've got 2 other challengers also running for this position. So I'd love to give you a chance to kind of make that closing pitch. We've got good people running across all the different positions. Why would somebody vote for Dru Gutierrez as opposed to everybody else running for position 2 this year?
So, check out my website, drewforhumbleisd.com. I've been very transparent from day one. Everything is on there. I've owned everything. Judge me on my body of work. In 2018, I was elected to the MUD 152 Board of Directors, where I learned a lot. Most importantly, the great value of being a good steward of the taxpayer dollar. It is not my money as a sitting board member. It is your money. How do we invest it? Investment shouldn't be a bad word. Setting the tax rate. That's key. A tax rate is made up of 2 components. You got your debt service and your maintenance and operations tax. That makes up, the $1.29 for the ISD. And then I've learned to manage and direct directors, which is no different than managing and directing a superintendent. Very familiar with government work. I'm very entrenched in the community. I currently serve on the Partnership Lake Houston Board of Directors, which serves as your Chamber of Commerce for hundreds of businesses here in the Lake Houston area. I serve on the Humble Education Foundation. And that's a great program where just last Friday, We gave out $324,000 worth of grants to our teachers, and every committee member got to read 15 grants. So I know, and I got to read the needs that some of the teachers have, and the ISD, the foundation, kind of fills that gap where the district can't really pay for a certain thing, but thankful to our donors, they can we can fulfill kind of their dream, and many of those grants have evolved into school district programs like the drone program over at Tuscaloosa. That was actually started through a education foundation grant, and now it's a full pledged program within the CTE wheel. Again, I'm a new generation of conservative values. I'm an immigrant. I'm bilingual. I'm educated. I have kids in the district. I have integrity. Okay. I want to make sure that I represent you on the board and hold my decisions firm. And then I want to bring fresh ideas and perspectives to the board, to a new generation of students, teachers, and staff, as well as represent a thriving, growing population and demographic in Humble ISD. And for that, I ask for your vote. Drew for 2.
Thank you so much. Now, real quick, you mentioned it at the beginning. People hear this, they like what they heard. Where can they find you and contact you and figure out how to support you?
So Drew for humbleisd.org, and it's FOR, not the number 4. I'm not running for position 4. Drew for Humble ISD. Also on Facebook and Instagram, same tagline, Drew for Humble ISD. I'm all over it.
All right. Well, thank you again so much for your time. I appreciate it. Best of luck in your race, and hope I get to talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Oscar.